Welcome back, everybody. A lot of people seem to really like my video I did the other day on the Critical Drinker and his grift about the new Supergirl movie that just got its trailer released, and how he's really not even read the comic or read a synopsis of the comic it's based on, makes up a bunch of stuff about what he thinks the movie will be about, and criticizes the movie for his fan fiction that he assumes will definitely be true, because he's certainly never been wrong about any predictions before. House of the Dragon. Anyway, Nerdrotic is a whole other basket of bunnies. You know, he's a whole other can of worms. He's a massive grifter, but he is arguably a lot more relevant right now. He's much more frequently uploading. He runs a big podcast with all the other big right-wing grifters that do this sort of media nonsense where they make fun of whatever new piece of nerd culture releases with a minority in it. And people seem to really like my video on the Critical Drinker, so I thought, why not do a bit of a sequel, and why don't we watch Nerdrotic's video melting down over Supergirl? Let's just, people seem to like the first one, why not make a sequel? So, if you end up enjoying this video, make sure to leave a like down below so I know you want more stuff like this. It helps the video a lot as well. Comment down below, tell me you liked the video. If you did, it also helps as well. Subscribe if you want to see more from me, hype the video to boost it, and join the fan Discord if you haven't already. I appreciate it. But without any further ado, prepare yourselves. The brain rot is coming. We are about to tank the full wave of brain damage that you receive when you watch a Nerdrotic video. Ready yourselves. Oh boy. Here we go. Oh my god, it's Superman. I'm gonna be honest, I don't care about this, video edit bit that he's doing in the intro here. The premise of this video is that superhero movies are doomed. That all superhero movies are now slop and they're dying and no one cares, which is hilarious because the last superhero movie that released, that was it was a huge deal. That was James Gunn's Superman, and that movie, guys, how many times have you been watching a video or scrolling Twitter or just something like that, and you see 1A, 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 1A? How many times have you seen that? The movie was very highly rated and had a very obvious widespread cultural impact. You see memes of it everywhere. The fact that these people tried to shit on that movie and call it a failure is wild, bro. We get that cringe chud editing.
Greetings, you over 1 million lovers of all things good and dislikers of all things bad. I don't think I'm going out on a limb here by saying it hasn't been a good year for superhero films. Many of us said back in July of 2025, its future would be decided with the release of Superman and the Fantastic Four First Steps. And that answer came in the form of resounding mediocrity and diminishing returns. Which is sad because
they've evolved to the point now where they just lie about box office numbers. They repeatedly say, over and over and over again, they say, this movie will fail, this movie will fail, this movie will fail, and then it doesn't, and so they say, the movie failed. And then when you point out the box office numbers, they've got a million excuses. One of their favorite is that studios buy out tickets to inflate the box office numbers, and that's why the movie didn't fail. But it actually did, though. You just can't see it. It's an invisible failure.
In many ways, superhero stories are American mythology, not only woven into the fabric of pop culture, but the entire culture. For generations, superheroes have captivated us with their embodiment of ultimate power and moral clarity, offering an escape into worlds where good triumphs over evil through extraordinary abilities and unwavering resolve. Their allure lies in the vicarious thrill of overcoming impossible odds, offering escapism where people
I feel like you generated this intro with AI.
Can see themselves as agents of change in a chaotic reality. Ultimately, superheroes represent hope and aspiration while inspiring imagination, reminding us that there is the potential for heroism in all of us, even if it's in small everyday acts. And for a long period of time, Hollywood was able to, with varying degrees, capture this. So what the hell happened? Well, it's a tale as old as time with one recent addition: greed, hubris, ego, and a slavish adherence.
One recent addition. Keyword recent. You are telling me that the world of movies, Hollywood movies, that greed is a new factor? Are you fucking serious, dog? Are you fucking serious? I love how these grifters have to pander to their audiences, and a big part of that pandering... Hold on, this guy. There we go. Anyway, like, I love how these people will... I got distracted by the point I was making because the random guy in WoW, he was like, you missed your spot, you missed the fishing pool, and it's like, I know, I don't care, I'm just fishing, whatever. But, yeah, as I was saying, they will talk about these movies as if they've failed or will fail, and they will make all these massive predictions about how this project is going to fail out, and then they will ignore the fact that it didn't, and they'll go right back to claiming some crazy prediction about the next project that's going to come out. There's got to be a point where the audiences of this content realize that every new thing that comes out with a minority lead, before even any information hits, they're shit-talking it. Like, the pattern has got to eventually become obvious for people, right? It did for me when I was a teenager, and I was a dumb teenager. So I can only hope.
To the message. At time of recording, the Supergirl trailer has just dropped, and I think this opening scene pretty much sums up the genre. And believe me, we'll get to that. But considering just that scene and the Supergirl poster that says truth, justice, and whatever, I think it's safe to say they've had a good run and superheroes are cooked.
Yeah, come on! Whoever did this, just confess. We promise we won't be mad.
What?
So, this movie is, as the Birdman put very well in his recent video responding to the Critical Drinker, a direct adaptation from a comic book. Actually, one of the highest rated comic books in the DC universe. It is actually considered to be, I think, Supergirl's best comic. Like it's a pretty good intro for the character put to screen, that's for sure. And about 90% of the scenes in that trailer were pulled straight from the page and, like, put on screen. Like, they recreated so many comic panels, it's not even funny. So, what he's complaining about here is the movie being too accurate to the comic. And the reason he's upset about that is he's too much of a poser, fake nerd to know what the movie is adapting and how accurately the movie is adapting it based on at least what we've seen so far. Yep, they're the real tourists.
How could you say that? We've got Spider-Man Brand New Day and Doomsday coming out. Well, believe me, we'll get to that as well. But how do we get here? Well, there is a plethora of videos on this channel explaining exactly why, but to keep this from being a 3-hour video, I'll keep this as brief as possible. Prior to 2020, Paramount and then eventually Disney were eating good with superhero films. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is something we will never see the likes of again. Phases 1 through 3 collectively featured 23 films that all, with the exception of The Incredible Hulk, were moderate successes to box office smashes, culminating in a box office total that is approximately $22.6 billion. And that includes the...
I think The Incredible Hulk even did, like, okay in the long run. This is the thing about these people as well. They talk about these projects like all that matters is their theatrical run. Like, a lot of these projects, even if they don't do well in theaters, end up getting a lot of views and attention later down the line when it goes up on streaming or through, like, some kind of residuals. You know, like, these people really rely on the here and now, and nothing is more here and now and current than a movie's theatrical run. So when they pretend as though what defines the success of a movie, as if the success of a movie even matters, but that's what they base their entire movement around, they assume that it's all about the theatrical views, which made COVID a really profitable time for these grifters because every movie was failing in theaters, so they could say, look, it failed, and they kept being right because everything was failing during COVID.
The highest grossing superhero film of all time while adjusting for inflation, Avengers Endgame. And the majority of this was accomplished without their biggest character, Spider-Man, and completely without X-Men and Fantastic Four, turning B-list characters like Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, and yes, they were B-list characters, and Black Panther into household names. A consistency that has never been seen in Hollywood and never will be seen again. And if Kevin Feige would have quit there,
They weren't exactly B-list, but like to be clear, there was an Iron Man cartoon, like Thor had been adapted in cartoons plenty. Like there were a lot of animated Marvel shows that were popular as fuck, that depicted those characters. But to be fair, until the MCU, when people heard Marvel, most thought Fantastic Four and X-Men, to be fair. Like, before they even thought Avengers, most people in pop culture broadly knew of the Fantastic Four and the X-Men before they knew of the Avengers.
His legendary status would be remembered to the end of days and maybe beyond. They wouldn't just name streets after him. They would rename Hollywood Feigewood.
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Then there's the other side of that coin prior to 2020, the much maligned Snyderverse, or DCEU. The first 3 films were destroyed by the corporate critic.
Is he gonna pander to the Snyder Bros? They are a cult. If you can pander to the Snyder Bros, that's a cult that any YouTuber would like to have worshiping them.
And we'll just say there was a lukewarm reaction from the audience, but from the people who do like them, they liked them a lot. And after Zack Snyder had to leave after a family tragedy and the abysmal showing of the Justice League, things actually started picking up with Wonder Woman that was well received by the corporate critics and the audience. Aquaman, which made $1 billion and a film outside of the DCEU. Joker, which made $1 billion without China. And admittedly, both Aquaman and Wonder Woman had Zack Snyder's fingerprints all over it. But reflecting the problems that they have with their source material publisher, DC Comics, they found themselves in the position of playing catch up to Marvel, a company that basically took everything they started in the comics and did it better. And this all had to do with Warner Brothers. Now, if Disney is Hollywood's most evil company, Warner Brothers is its dumbest, due to studio interference causing all of their problems. And they were utterly dominated by Marvel, except for one thing. Wonder Woman and its success combined with the Me Too Time's Up era made Kevin Feige.
Wonder Woman's success along with the Me Too Time's Up era. You know, guys, remember when stopping rape was a trend? Question mark? This is part of their whole, like, victory lap thing. Like, they believe because Trump won that, like, Me Too is over. Of course, they are pro-rape, apparently, because they don't like Me Too. But, I mean, maybe don't say you're against a movement that's about exposing predators in Hollywood, a place that is very notorious for predators.
Blink and flush down the toilet a formula that was working just fine, bypassing decades of comic book lore that sold in the range of hundreds of thousands to millions, that rushed to adapt a more current era that was filled with race and gender swaps in comic books that were more likely than not canceled, that sold in the tens of thousands, which includes the creation of the MCU. From Kevin Feige, I think we're getting to a point.
The creation of the MCU. You know, I when I was in the theater, and I saw that moment where, like, all the, like, female heroes carry the Infinity Gauntlet and they do, like, their charge. I remember seeing that scene, and I've been doing, like, left-wing content on YouTube for maybe a couple months at that point. And so when I saw that scene, I remember just, like, the scene itself on its own maybe would have made me roll my eyes a little bit at worst, but I knew exactly what was waiting when I got back to the internet, when I got home from the theater with that scene. I knew exactly what I'd have to be responding to over the next few days. And I was just like, oh, fucking hell, man. Oh, man, they're gonna be mad about this. And sure enough, that night, the Quartering had put out his first of many rant videos.
Point soon where we have so many great female characters that those are just our heroes, as opposed to when they are all female, all male. It's just the Marvel heroes, more than half of which will be women. And since taking a year off from a government overreaction to a cold for both companies, it's been all
government overreaction to a cold. Mind you, more than a 9/11's worth of Americans a day were dying for months and months and months. Also, we're currently in another spike of cases.
downhill from there. Disney Marvel decided to go all in on the MCU and the message and bypass this thing known as a plan, leading to diminishing returns that should be taught in film schools. Phase 5 was an era of lore destruction, character vandalization, both male and female, and identity politics. From Black Widow, a prequel about a dead character that performed so poorly it led to the film's star Scarlett Johansson suing Disney, to the good friend of Pepper Potts,
yeah, Black Widow did perform really badly.
who is now running Stark Industries, the Falcon not being able to get a bank loan where they insinuate it's due to his race, to the deification of the terrorist.
I don't think they insinuated it was due to his race. Are we really going to pretend like the MCU is that woke? Like, the show did tackle some racial politics for sure, but it was about the fact that his family didn't have enough money. You could argue it was because of his race in the sense that, like, Black Americans tend to come from less socioeconomic security family-wise, and so it's harder to, like set up, have, like, a good history with a bank to get a loan. But, like, I don't think the show was implying that in modern day some kind of redlining was happening. Like, you're just imagining that. I watched the show. I rewatched it not that long ago, too.
Freckle Jesus, to turning the Infinity Stones into paperweights, to attacking
If you've seen Loki, which is one of the more popular shows out of the MCU, like, film or showography, then I shouldn't have to explain this. You know how dishonest that is. The moment where Loki sees that the TVA people use, like, just countless copies of the Infinity Stones as paperweights, because outside of their respective universes, they're just little shiny rocks. They're not useful in any way, because they're tied to the universes. They're tied to, like, the cosmic background radiation originating from the birth of the universe. And so when you take them out of the universe that they originate from, that they are inherently tied to the reality of, then you basically just have rocks. So the idea that that is, like, bad writing, or like I don't know how this is, like, bad in any way. It was a really good moment, and most people agree. Like, Loki is very well liked. So he's definitely missing the mark here.
fans in She-Hulk, to making Thor a bumbling idiot, to making Nick Fury a fraud, to Hawkeye getting his ass kicked by Kate Bishop and Echo, to making the Kingpin cry, to the
Nick Fury wasn't a fraud. Nick Fury was away, and I'll spoil, Skrull has been pretending to be Nick Fury for quite some time. That's not Nick Fury.
abysmal flop that was the Marvels, to centering both phases around the villain Jonathan Majors Kang, who should have been fired for his performance and not for his alleged allegations.
I see why he's against the Me Too movement. I see. Mind you, he is friends with the Quartering, who was banned from all Magic the Gathering events because he would serially sexually harass women at them. So, like, who knows what's in this guy's history? Alleged allegations, yeah. He really had to make sure that it sounded like maybe they're not true.
To the female
Hi, Sarah.
Silver Surfer. Combine that with bloated budgets, bloated narratives, inconsistent storytelling, lack of focus, horrific CGI, and content overload. It was a recipe for disaster. Speaking of content overload, Marvel Phases 1 through 3 had roughly 50 plus hours in content in total. Compare that to Marvel's Phase 4 and 5, which had a combined 100 plus hours of content, give or take. And if even half of it was good,
The shows definitely make up a lot of that. There is quite a bit of bloat, I'm not gonna lie. I could do with a little bit less Marvel, though they have toned it down, like they've slowed down production, it seems like, which is, I think, what everybody prefers. It's like with Call of Duty. People like Call of Duty more when they take a step back and work for a couple years on a new game and really, like, try to do something new and nice. then all the players come back and the new COD is a banger. But if they rush out year by year by year a new COD every time, every new COD has less buys than the last one. But then they can stop, take a couple years off, make the best COD they can make, and people come back in droves every time.
We wouldn't be having this conversation. Sure, there were successes, and if it wasn't for those bloated budgets, there might have been more, but the only unquestionable ones are Spider-Man No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine. Both films were filled with cameos from characters largely out of the MCU, and 75% of Spider-Man's profits went to Sony. Speaking of Sony, because we don't want to leave them out.
So, like, as you can see here, it's not about whether or not people liked the thing enough to pay money to see it in large numbers. That's not the thing that they are pointing out here. That is not, like, the main crux of their argument. What they are arguing is that how much money Marvel takes in as net profit, that is the decider on whether or not wokeness is bad or good. Like, if Marvel is not bringing in a lot of net profit, then that is their moral punishment for siding with the wrong ideology, wokeness. That is the logic he's applying to build this narrative.
Out of this, although they are easy to forget despite the success of the animated Miles Morales films and the inexplicable success of a couple of Tom Hardy Venom films, they've also given us bangers like the memeable Morbius and Kraven.
Yeah.
You remember Kraven came out?
I ain't gonna defend Sony. I haven't liked anything they put out besides Spider-Verse.
And of course, the gloriously awful Madam Web. But there was one more success with Disney Marvel, the holdover Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, directed by James Gunn. Who then
Banger.
fucked off to DC, where his first publicly perceived act was to get...
He still works with Marvel. What are you talking about? Where has he said he's never doing a Marvel project ever again? I've yet to see any confirmation of that. I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like I'd know.
rid of Henry Cavill as Superman.
Got a
And
fucking
Warner
mosquito.
Brothers and James Gunn didn't do themselves any favors. Since the Joker's release
Damn it.
in 2019, as far as films that have been released in theaters is concerned, they've had no less than 9 flops. That's right, Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn flopped. Wonder Woman 1984 flopped. The Suicide Squad, directed by James Gunn, flopped. Black Adam flopped.
The Suicide Squad, directed by James Gunn, flopped? I don't think that's true. I remember it was a massive critical success and audience rating success. I don't know about its box office numbers, but I know that maybe it flopped, but I know that it did well enough in terms of ratings that DC was like, yeah, we want this guy to be making the rest of our movies. For the most part, like, that was his first DC movie that was, like, his project, and it was kind of him proving his trying to make DC prove their name. So I wouldn't be surprised if it did do pretty badly, because the DC movies that came before, in most cases, ended up being bad, and the last Suicide Squad movie was pretty bad. And I wouldn't be surprised if, like, people needed to find out that that movie was good to want to go see the next James Gunn DC movie, which was Superman, which they did go out and see in great numbers.
Shazam! Fury of the Gods flopped. The Flash, featuring Michael Keaton's return as Batman and 2 Ezra Millers, flopped. Let's talk about Blue Beetle. It flopped. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom.
There it is. He did the reference there. So for those who don't know, that is a reference from like 4 or 5 years ago, where he did this really racist video called Let's Taco About Blue Beetle. For those that don't know, Blue Beetle is a Latino superhero. So yeah, the whole joke of Nerdrotic's video is, ha ha, they're Hispanic, ha taco, ha, we're tacoing about Blue Beetle. And he got like ratioed like crazy on Twitter, and he's still mad about it to this day, like 4 or 5 years later, I want to say. And so he just referenced it there. I genuinely have not thought of that in years, and when he said that, it flashed into my mind. Oh my god, dude.
flopped, and Joker 2 flopped. And their only real successes, The Batman, which is a divisive film mostly due to its horrible third act, and the best thing they've done since Joker 2019, the Penguin series on HBO. And then there's James Gunn's Superman, which was neither a flop or a resounding success. It's the film equivalent of what our pal It's a Gundam calls a gassed up mid. Since 2020, combining TV shows and film.
Wait, what? Did he just cite a movie as bad because It's a Gundam calls it gassed up mid? He just cited It's a Gundam as his, like, movie critic authority figure that he just pulled? Okay.
DC, Disney Marvel, and Disney Sony have produced 66 projects, and the vast majority of them have been mediocre to abysmal. Because again, if half of those projects were mediocre to good, we wouldn't be talking about superhero fatigue. I mean, could you blame anyone? Even the biggest fans? Christ, 66 projects?
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, the fact is, a lot of something is a problem at a certain point, even if you like that thing. People get overwhelmed. Hell, you can love a game a lot and play it really consistently. I've done this before, but if the game gets updated too quickly and I feel like I can't keep up, I'll start to fall off for long stints of time and then start coming back to it like once every few months or once every 6 months, right? Like, it's easy to get overwhelmed by even too much of a good thing and then just, you know, need to take a break. You know what I mean? It's natural. So at a certain point, I don't even know if it's a question of the MCU or superhero movies as a concept's quality, so much as it is how much have we gotten lately. And I think a big part of why Superman succeeded, obviously it was a good movie, it got very good ratings, and it did very well in the box office, but I think a big part of why it did really well in the box office is there's not been a big superhero, big blockbuster movie in a hot minute. And by that I mean like almost a year from that point. Like, there hadn't been a big superhero blockbuster movie. I guess there was Fantastic Four, but like, I mean, for the most part, it seemed like people are starting to have had some time since they last were really into these movies, and they're ready to get back into them. Because Fantastic Four did well, Deadpool and Wolverine did really well, Superman did really well. Like, every one of the big superhero movies in recent years has done well. But there was a stint from, like, the end game up until, I want to say, up until when Deadpool and Wolverine came out, honestly, where it really did feel like superhero fatigue was setting in hard.
And I can hear you now, hypothetical dear viewer. Is it superhero fatigue or bad movie fatigue? And my answer is yes. And now we need to talk about the future of superhero films. We'll start with Sony because this will be the easiest one to prognosticate, and arguably they made the smartest decision by canceling all the Spider-Man villain spin-offs. And they're just gonna make Spider-Man movies, and the only one they're really doing on their own is the third Miles Morales film that'll come out someday. Side note on Miles Morales, the co-creator of this derivative character, Sarah Bocelli, recently reported.
Damn, they really hate Miles Morales for being black. Like, it has been like, God, 8 years now, 7 years now that I have been covering these people's ongoing crusade against the existence of Miles Morales. They really hate him. But he just can't fail. Everything with Miles Morales' name on it does well commercially, and when they tie their moral judgment of things to how much money it makes and profit, it's like, well, sorry, it looks like Miles Morales is pretty good, actually. It's making a lot of money. Like the Spider-Man PS5 games, the movies, I don't know, the comics even do pretty well. And comics don't do well in general these days.
She's getting 0 residuals. Now, while it's an undisputed fact that Miles Morales is Miles Morales, Marvel...
Wait, she's getting 0 residuals. Once again, this is a man obsessed with the idea that making a lot of money off of something means you're a good person, and not making money off of something means you're a bad person. Like, my haters have the same mindset as well. Like, being broke is a sign of moral failing.
Should still pay the lady. As far as the DCEU is concerned, I would say it was looking pretty hopeful until Superman came out and James Gunn started running his yapper, which has been the prime contributor to the DCU being so divisive. Aside from the fact that he should have probably focused more on making a good Superman film instead of planning an entire cinematic universe that he was going to change anyway, including announcing The Authority as your second film, which wasn't even originally a DC title that belonged to Jim Lee's Wildstorm. Now, it was a wise move for James Gunn to shit-can that film, but what he's come out with so far is not exactly inspiring. And for starting an entire...
I don't know. Even Peacemaker Season 2, which had a pretty crappy finale in my opinion, did pretty darn well. Pretty darn well. And I don't even have to tell you how well Superman did. Y'all can keep coping about it, but those numbers don't lie, brother.
Cinematic universe, it lacks any focus, narrative, or world building. But there is one commonality with all the projects he's produced with DC, from the Suicide Squad to...
Okay, the idea that it lacks any narrative, focus, or world building, those are the three big things about these movies. Are you serious? He's just saying words now. Anything negative that he can think to say, he's saying it, no matter how much it applies. Or doesn't.
The Creature Commandos, to Superman, to Peacemaker, they all feature a ragtag...
Oh yeah, I forgot about Creature Commandos. That one's also done numbers. That's an animated DC show in the same universe as all these live-action movies, and that one's done numbers. People love it. I've heard a lot of good things about it. Haven't seen it myself, though.
A group of smart-talking, irreverent, and semi-cynical heroes, but mostly anti-heroes, who come together due to some crisis and go on an adventure where they find the true meaning of heroism and found family. All set to a soundtrack of...
Damn, movies have casts of multiple people and tend to focus on more than one or two characters because it's more interesting and engaging? Wow. How dare they?
Classic pop tunes, or music from bands that would fit nicely in a mid-2000s Coachella lineup, which I know is totally different than Guardians of the Galaxy. But in all seriousness, as a fan of most of James Gunn's work, I did question if he was...
Like, one of the biggest sentiments you see online is, man, I love James Gunn for introducing me to insert song, right? And the fact that Nerdrotic uses James Gunn's based music taste as a point against him, it's like, he really is the embodiment of that one meme where it's like, get a load of this guy. And it's the coolest fucking thing ever that he's mad about.
The right guy for Superman, and that was answered after I saw Superman. He's not the right guy. So far, we've gotten a cartoon nobody's watched, a Superman movie where...
A cartoon nobody's watched. A lot of people have watched it. I haven't, but a lot of people have been telling me I need to because it's good.
Superman wasn't very super, and the best character was Mr. Terrific, and he's introduced things like prison sex and a drug-filled bisexual adult soiree before things like Batman and Wonder Woman. And yes, Peacemaker Season 2 in particular was as bad, if not worse, than any Disney Plus show. But absolutely none of it is aspirational or inspirational, something that's vital in a Superman movie and for establishing the foundation of a DC universe. This brings us to the next film of the DCU, Supergirl, who was last seen at the end of Superman's James...
These people genuinely try to pass themselves off as actual movie critics, as actual reviewers of art. This is not engaging with art. If it's not obvious, this is not what engaging with art looks like. Not at all.
Gunn, where she called the Man of Steel a bitch.
Thanks for watching him, bitch!
Your little quips.
It's his sister.
We get it, man. You're edgy and cool, yeah.
Now, the poster was revealed prior to the trailer release, where it said truth, justice, and whatever. Now, if they had used truth, justice, and the American way at any point in Superman, that's how
siblings and cousins
be justifiable. But considering they didn't, it looks like exactly what it is: more nihilism and cynicism. And the trailer certainly didn't help because, again, it opens up with Krypto peeing on the face of Superman on a newspaper. And for anyone trying...
Okay, so are these movies too peppy, upbeat, and like, he's right behind me, isn't he? Or are they too cynical? What, like, pick a struggle, bro. What is the issue you have with these movies? because you can't have both. They're opposites.
Trying to justify this by pointing out that Kara Zor-El is also on that newspaper? Stop it. The stream hits him right in the damn face, and it was just a bad decision. Sure, good job on creating conversations online, but it's not going to do anything to win people over. The only highlight was a 1-second silhouette.
Dude, everybody fucking loves Crypto. You're... My man, you are missing the mark. I guess maybe not with his audience. His audience probably loves this. They did not watch the movie.
Of Lobo, but otherwise it just looked like another carbon copy of Guardians of the Galaxy, and it featured this line.
He sees the good in everyone, and I see the truth.
Just more irreverent, cynical nihilism. In other words, James Gunn's wheelhouse. But if you were wondering why there was so much...
For those who don't know why she is cynical and nihilist in this movie, it's because her parents just died. She, like, for her, because the way, like, space and time works, her parents died, like, a month ago, while for Superman, his parents died decades ago. And so she's still, like, freshly, like, mourning. You know what I mean? She's very pissed off. Yeah, she was cryo-frozen, my bad. Yeah.
Gaslighting to make Superman look like more of a success than it was. Well, we got our answer. WB's for sale to Netflix of all places, which is the worst possible news for any Lord of the Rings fan, Game of Thrones fan, Harry Potter fan, and particular DC fans. I mean, my first question is, what happens to...
He is aware of the fact that Amazon owns Lord of the Rings, right? I think it's sometimes on Netflix, but if you're trying to get the full HD extended editions, which is the only way you should be watching Lord of the Rings, then you should go to Amazon Prime. Or buy it on Blu-ray. I have all three of them on Blu-ray right there.
The DC Comics. Paramount is still in the mix, but what it does do is put James Gunn's long-term future in doubt, along with the long-term future of the superhero film being in doubt. And this brings us back to Marvel, whose next two films are undoubtedly going to be massive hits. And that's because both films are going to be absolutely packed with cameos. Spider-Man Brand New Day is going to feature the return of the Scorpion, the return of the Savage.
I like how they've now made the fact that Marvel has a shared universe of characters that reoccur in future projects. Now, whenever that happens and it does well, it's a cheap trick cameo to get people in seats. But before that, when it was like Thor showing, or not Thor, Iron Man showing up in Spider-Man, or Spider-Man showing up in Captain America Civil War, that was fine. That was just introducing a new character, right? But reoccurring characters in this shared universe, this ongoing cinematic universe, that's cheap cameos that trick people into watching the movie. That's his only explanation for how these movies he swears need to fail, or should fail, don't anyway.
Savage, Incredible Hulk, and Punisher, among others. And while I can't be specific, but this character's name has already been floated out there, the introduction of the first MCU member of the X-Men. And then, of course, there's Doomsday that features everyone else. A film that may devolve into essentially being Robert Downey Jr. kills the Marvel Universe. A movie I think that's going to be a lot closer to Doctor Strange Mom rather than Infinity War or Endgame. Still, it's going to be a cameo fest that's going to make a lot of money, but as with Spider-Man No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine, it is not going to solve the long-term problems of the MCU.
Okay, then why do you keep on bringing up their profits when you're like, okay, yeah, these are going to make money, but it won't make the MCU better? It's like, okay, why do you keep bringing up profits if what actually matters to you is making the MCU better? Do you think that the MCU or any project being good guarantees it will get high profits? Stop using profits as a measure of quality, dog.
Or superhero films. Recently, the Doomsday teams were revealed, and they were mostly dudes, leading to 5s and 10s of women on Twitter decrying that they need the MCU back, proving collectively that they...
5s and 10s of women on Twitter. Okay? Then who cares?
They have the short-term memory of a goldfish, considering we just got the female Silver Surfer in Ironheart a few short months ago.
MCU versus MCU. Now, even I was starting to feel it was a little MCU.
Do you remember when this lady got dunked on a couple weeks ago because she had a meltdown over the new Mario movie, casting Brie Larson as, what's her name? I'm blanking on her name right now. That other princess, the one from space. Help me out, chat. I know you guys know. Rosalina. Yeah. She plays Rosalina in the new Mario movie, and Grace I think her name's like Grace Hedberg or something like that. I don't know exactly, but she did a video where she rants about the casting, and it was so bad that not only did all of Twitter dunk on her, but even the rest of the griftosphere realized how badly she got dunked on, and in response, they've now zipped it about Brie Larson getting cast there. They've completely zipped it. They are quiet about it. They realized it is not a winning thing to go after the Mario movie again. They did it for the first movie. They called it woke. They said it was going to fail because Princess Peach wears pants in one scene. They do not want a repeat of that embarrassment. It was not a good look for them back then.
Yui the last year or so. Maybe, it sounds horrible, but it was kind of getting crazy. I think Disney overall has had a little bit of an issue with that. No matter how many women you cram into these movies, for the most part, they don't go.
I'm sorry, could you speak into my good ear?
I know what you're thinking. The end is nigh. Grace Randolph just made a good point, but not to
Grace
worry.
Randolph.
She reverts back to form, forgets what she said a mere few seconds ago, and contradicts it.
But I think that we might have overcorrected a little bit. This is an extremely male-centric cast. And I think not only is it male-centric, but it doesn't have any female characters to excite female and LGBTQ audiences. You know what I'm talking about. Those of us who love Wicked, Barbie, the Disney live-action fairy tales, and even Avatar.
Haha, even Grace thinks Avatar is a movie for Barbie and Wicked fans. Anyways, to state the...
Even Grace? Are you talking about... What is up with this guy citing other disgraced content creators as sources of authority on media? Like, this guy really is the embodiment of that, like, I got my opinion on this piece of media from a YouTuber culture, you know what I mean?
The obvious, Disney Marvel has been making movies for those demographics for the last half decade, and as you pointed out, Grace, they didn't show up. Barbie and Wicked Part 1 were successes because they were made for
I thought
girls
they
and
did.
gays, and they need to stop making superhero films for Wicked and Barbie fans.
This movie is for the comic book girlies and gays, so y'all better start reading, okay? I cannot wait for...
I like how now Wicked and Barbie are successes, and people should stay in their lane and make movies like that. But when they came out, they were doing the same formula to those movies as well. It's such a blatant grift. How are people not figuring that out? It's ridiculous. Hey, Gunn. I remember Grace giving the most dogshit takes for what she wanted to happen in Mando Season 2, and I realized no one should ever listen to her. Yeah, that probably would have been a lot earlier of a tell for me than her meltdown over Brie Larson, to tell you the truth.
Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow to come out.
Paraphrasing my good friend Chris Gore, turning Marvel into a girl brand will prove to be one of the costliest decisions in entertainment history. But again, getting rid of the MCU and replacing them with cameo fest doesn't even begin to fix the problem. You need to win not...
Okay, the MCU has always been cameo fest. Why are we pretending like this is a new thing? That is the whole point of the MCU being a shared universe. They started the idea of cameo fest movies. Also just pre-ordered Hightail? Fuck yeah! Day one, I'm streaming that shit for 12 plus hours minimum.
Not only dudes back, but normies of all makes, shapes, and sizes, but getting an audience back is much easier said than done. Think about this. The movie that technically started it all for Marvel, Blade, can't be made today. Well, they can, but they won't, because they've dialed things up to such ridiculous levels that
they can, but they won't. They literally brought him into Deadpool and Wolverine. They literally cameoed him in that movie. What do you mean you couldn't make Blade today? Like, are you telling me they could make Deadpool, but they wouldn't make Blade today? Like, You absolutely could.
That it's not financially viable to go back to formula, which is what they need to do.
They're literally making Blade, by the way. That is a project in the pipeline right now. They're making Blade again.
Yes!
And that is the absolute
Actually, to be fair, he was right. You can't make Blade today, but they are making Blade for tomorrow.
Of superhero films. They were the most healthy when you could make a solo superhero film. Long gone are those days, and remember when they made comic book films that weren't Marvel or DC? From 300 to Sin City to Dread to History of Violence to Kingsman to Kick-Ass to Hellboy to The Mask.
You realize that several of those examples have had sequels recently, right? Also, there are shitloads of comic shows that are still in existence, that are still coming out. Like, they're not all Marvel and DC. The fact that you only know about Marvel and DC is what tells me that you're just kind of a tourist and you have no idea what you're talking about.
We had it so good back then. Now, they'll be able to make Batman and Spider-Man movies forever, but keep in mind, the next Spider-Man movie is, again, filled with cameos. And what was the last Superman filled with? Cameos, when they should be able to survive just fine on their own against their arch villain. But now everything just looks like Ready Player One. But some of the main components of most modern superheroes that are missing are earnestness, aspiration, inspiration, and heroism. And that's because I think there are very few left in Tinseltown who either believe in that or even know what it means. I think the vast majority see Superman as Homelander. The hero has been deconstructed to death. What they've needed to do for years, and it's possibly too late, is reconstruct a hero.
Okay, this guy is pulling this straight out of his ass. I have never seen a depiction on screen of Superman that leans harder into the idea of his of the reason why Superman is so cool being that, like, he uses his infinite strength and power to act as a human shield for, like, civilians, right? So when you watch the new Superman movie, there's a scene where he literally, like, tanks getting stepped on by a kaiju to save a dog, right? And that is exactly what Superman would do. In the Snyder movies, there's several scenes where Superman just sits there and allows, like, a courthouse of people or something to get blown up so he can aura farm surviving the explosion. You know, like, a lot of the Superman movies, especially the Snyder ones, focused on how cool and powerful Superman was and how he could have cool, epic fights, but James Gunn's Superman really leaned into that, like, he's a nice guy who is just trying to stop people from getting hurt. You know, like, obviously fighting the monster is gonna have to happen, but first he's got to protect the people that are gonna get hurt. Conservatives were so mad that he saved that squirrel. Yeah, he is actively lying to his audience of people who we all know did not watch the movie. And so he can lie to them and get away with it.
Reason films like Star Wars, Christopher Reeve's Superman, and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man hit like they did, aside from being great films, is they were well-timed. They were inspirational stories in bad times. And God knows we can use that right now, and I know some might feel that is childish or naive. Well, I'd rather be that than some nihilistic black-pilled twat. Because right now, Hollywood's just deconstructing the deconstruction. When everything's irreverent, then nothing is. And how in the hell can you subvert expectations when the expectation...
Wait, everything's irreverent and then nothing is? Is that you lampshading the hypocrisy in your position? That all these movies are simultaneously so upbeat and carbon copy, he's right behind me, isn't he? But also somehow they're also nihilistic and uncaring? And down, and like, no, what? You are a nihilistic black-pilled twat.
Is the thing we love is going to be subverted. And that's why people are just over it, which is certainly reflected in those box office numbers. And that's why it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that Crypto pissing on Superman's face.
Also, I like this. Superhero movies need to reinvent themselves, is what he just said earlier. And now he's saying, why do they think people want what they love to be subverted? So it's literally that one meme from The Simpsons, the focus group, where it's like, so you want something that's original, but familiar, And then, like, the whole list of things that the kids want are just exact opposites that are somehow simultaneously true about their ideal show. It's a really funny scene, and completely accurate to how this guy judges media, or pretends to for his YouTube channel.
Is the encapsulation of the absolute state of superhero films, which is a damn shame because the degradation of our American mythology, including but not limited to Star Wars, Star Trek, and the superhero film, can match the degradation in pop culture and culture. And that's not a good thing. And we've gone from truth, justice, and the American way to truth, justice, and whatever. And if Hollywood doesn't care, why should we?
Nerdrotic.com.
God, this guy is so cringe. Why do people buy this fucking bullshit, dude? Oh my god, please, if you're a Nerdrotic fan and you somehow watched this far into the video, for once, what I want you to do is find one of Nerdrotic's videos negatively calling out one of the higher rated movies that he doesn't like. Watch that video, really pay attention to it, really internalize his critiques of the movie. And then I want you to go, you don't have to pay for it, but go find and watch that movie for yourself. Tank the lost time if you think you're not going to like it. And really give it a chance and see if you feel as though Nerdrotic, Critical Drinker, The Quartering, any of these people have done a good job at leading you away from bad media and towards good media. Do that and then you tell me. I think that would be a fun experiment. Anyway, if you ended up enjoying this video, if you found my coverage entertaining, enjoyable, or educational in any way, then consider leaving a like and a comment down below. It really does help a lot. And if you don't know what to say, consider commenting peanut down below in the comments section as a code word to let me know you watched this far into the video. I appreciate it a ton. And of course, subscribe if you want to see more from me and ring the bell icon. Leave a hype if you want to boost the video, and join my fan Discord through the link down below if you haven't already, as you can become a part of my main hub of my community and fan base. I hope to see you around there. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.